Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I am excited about this show because it's high school football playoffs in Georgia. I got excited because I got John Nelson from GPP Sports. He is on the show. We were talking pre-show, John, about how excited I was about filling out the brackets. I was actually looking at the brackets starting in 7A all the way to Class 1A Division 2, and I am absolutely excited about high school playoffs in Georgia.
Yeah, and that's the best part of season 3, as I like to call it. And it's fun to be able to sit there and go, okay, we got 255, and we get to trim it down and all the storylines that are attached to it. As you and I are talking, I spent time earlier today with the head coach at Glasscock County for my weekly column, and was taking notes at a very feverish pace, trying to get things squared away in my conversation with Chris Kelly for my weekly column. So it was fun to catch up with him. I've told a lot of folks that Chris was a part of my first book, and so it was great to see them finally make the playoffs for the first time ever. So it was. We'll see what happens with Glasscock. They've got a tough one with Aquinas, and we'll rock and roll from there. But that's just part of it.
Well, we are going to break down all the games in the brackets, but we're going to pick some favorites who can come out of each of the quadrants and represent for the state championship. First of all, this is going to be the final year in 7A. With the new reclassification, 7A is going away. What are your thoughts about the new reclassification going into next year?
I've thought that we've had too many A's for the longest time. And I think that when you look at the number of classifications and you go and it's like, okay, we've got 7A. But then when you look at the postseason, and this is another example of it, where you end up with teams that are below 500 or below making the playoffs. And it's not a reflection on them because of their regions. It's because of the size of their region, creating a non-region schedule where you're having to play 6-7 games sometimes. There's one of the Class A regions has only 3 teams in it, so that means they've got to schedule 8 games, and that means that they don't have a 4 seed, which means that Sly County gets a first round bye because of how the rotation is. When you have teams that are 500 or below making it into the postseason, and the optics aren't really a good look. And I think that what this does is that you condense, and I thought that we've had one, if not too many A's, if that makes any sense. So now that you've taken the 1A away, you kind of get folks in, and you've now got, I think they're looking at 80 plus teams in the top classification, roughly 60 in some of the others on your way down. And then the privates have been set aside from single A to triple A over on the right-hand side to create their own separate championship. It's been a long time coming that we've had too many A's, and we'll see where we go from here. But I'm looking forward to it. I don't really, we have the appeals process that's coming up soon, so we'll see what happens with all of the fallout going forward.
John, I want to talk about 7A playoffs because not only do we have the top teams in the state of Georgia, we have some of the top teams in the nation. We're talking Mill Creek, Buford, Colquitt County. Is there a team that I haven't mentioned in 7A that really stands out to you? I know I'm missing some. You got Grayson, you got Collins Hill, you got Walton. I mean, there are some teams out there that can really make a deep run and win a state championship in the final year in 7A.
Well, you've got Carrollton, obviously, upper left. I know a lot of folks are looking at Juju Lewis as a sophomore, and, we're going to be seeing him for 2 more years after this. So I think everything looks, at Carrollton and Walton in the upper left-hand corner. You mentioned what we were looking at in the low left with Mill Creek. You look at Colquitt, who's got a nasty first-round matchup with Parkview because of math. And so Parkview is a 4 seed. They get to go to Moultrie in the first round. And you end up with Colquitt and Milton and North Cobb down low right. And then you look in the upper right, you're looking at Grayson. You're looking at, a Norcross team that we had on Football Fridays, and you're also looking at Buford as well. So, what did we just go through? About 7 or 8 teams in 7A that if things fall their way, they can stare at it. But no, it'll be interesting to see with the nationally ranked teams. They've dealt with the pressure so far, but that's just regular season. how do they deal with it going through games 11 through hopefully 15 from their point of view?
And in 6A, Langston Hughes is always going to be a tough out. Aaron Nolan, I was taking a look at this kid. I mean, he is just a talent. And I know that Langston Hughes seems to be the team to beat in 6A. But there are some teams like Houston County. They got a tough draw. They actually have to go on the road in their playoff appearance. And then you also have some other teams in 6A that can make a deep run. I like Rome. I think my two dark horses are Rome and Gainesville to actually make a deep run in the 6A playoffs.
Well, you look at Rome, and they could have a second-round matchup hosting Langston Hughes.
Oh, yeah. See, there you go.
And this is what happens when, you're a 2 seed. You've got to kind of fight your way through it. So, once again, looking upper left, you're looking at Lee County and Douglas County with their defense with Johnny White and how they were able to navigate that region. We would have seen Lee County and Hughes, but with Douglas County getting that win in region and being the region title holder, that's why Hughes is the 2 seed, and they're having to work their way through it. Low left, you're looking at Houston County, North Atlanta. That's going to be the game on GPB this Friday night. So we'll get to see a 5-star quarterback on our air. And also, as I'm scanning as you've been talking about it, but you look at Houston County and Gainesville low left. Can Houston County and Gainesville, it's probably going to be a game that would end up, if chalk was to happen and you were to look at those two squads, it's probably going to be over 100 total points if both of these teams' offenses have it their way. Low right, you're looking at Thomas County Central, and that second-round matchup with Hughes having to go to Barron Stadium to take on Rome. Then upper right, you're looking at a Roswell team that is putting up a bunch of numbers, and I think that upper right, it's as we go in this conversation, what I've been able to notice is the upper right bracket in each of the classifications seems to be the one that's the most wide open, where if you look low left, you end up with something that could, in a lot of different places, be a championship game. But the winner of that one would only be advancing to the semifinals to get out of that bracket. So as we go, you'll end up with those matchups. When we get into the Benedictine discussion, Benedictine North Oconee would be a quarterfinal to get out of that low left bracket to get into the semis. So a lot of folks would look at 1 versus 2, and you'd be getting that in the quarterfinals.
Wow, that is amazing that they would only meet in the quarterfinals. All right, John, let's go to 5A because we have a special team down in the Chattahoochee Valley who has made history. Harris County, 9-1. They won their region for the first time since 2014. Last year they were 2-8. They have a tough matchup against a 4 seed Ola, who is 7-3. But how far do you think Harris County can go in the 5A state playoffs?
I mean, you look at what they have been. They're low left. So let's look at low left. You look at low left, you got Jefferson. That's a tall order with downtown Sammy Brown and with what Travis Nolan has been able to do with the Dragons. They're the 1 seed down there. Hiram, you'd have a second-round matchup if chalk was to work its way through. You'd have Hiram at Jefferson. That to me is going to be a fly below the radar second-round matchup with Hiram and with Jefferson there. Then you would have, I think that Harris County could work its way out of their mini bracket to the winner of that Hiram-Jefferson game. Jefferson is going to be a tall order because you're dealing with a coin flip if it was to be Harris County and Jefferson. So you might have to make a road trip, or it could be a hosting if things were to work their way through, specifically when you're looking at Harris County. You look at the upper left in 5A, you could have a second-round matchup of Ware County, who's a 2 seed, having to travel to Warner Robins. That's going to be a heavyweight battle. Once again, Coffee beats Ware for the region title. Ware's the 2 seed. They get that first-round home game, but then they've got to travel. Then you look at Dalton and GAC. You look at Creekside that's a part of this. Creekside's been flying below the radar a lot this year. Creekside went out to play Mater Day early in the season, and it was Maurice Dixon took, I think, 55 kids with him, and it was Labor Day weekend. So it was he wants to be known on a national level. And so when you play a team in Southern California out of the CIF Southern section, you'll get noticed. Right-hand side, you've got the Cartersville that's there, and you've got Cartersville, I think, is probably the one team that folks are looking at in the upper right. Then low right, you look at Coffee, who's down there. Jones County, Northside Columbus is going to be a sneaky matchup for a 2-3 low right. So we'll see what happens there coming out of the blocks as well. So once again, I think that in 5A, Cartersville upper right might in a very, very evenly distributed group. Cartersville might be the team that you look at upper right, but there's some sneaky matchups in the other three quadrants.
All right, and now in 4A, here's one of my dark horses that could make a state championship run. You already talked about Benedictine and North Oconee meeting in the quarterfinal, but the Bearcats from Bainbridge, they do have a tough matchup with Trinity Christian, who was the number 4 seed, but Bainbridge looked really tough this year. I think they can make a deep run. And Troup County as a 3 seed on the road against the syrup makers of Cairo, that is a sneaky road game. Troup County went to the semifinals last year. I think it doesn't really matter if they play at home or on the road. I think that Troup County, that's a pretty good matchup. And LaGrange with Malik Kemp, he's starting to look like a very good quarterback. I think LaGrange taking on Westover. Those are the teams that I think that could make a deep run in the 4A state playoffs. What do you think?
All right, go turn your lights back on as I talk here for a second. Yeah, I'm right there with you. With Troup, my only question is Teo Todd. What do you do at quarterback? Because with what Tanner Glisson has had to try to figure out offensively, who's going to be your straw with the injury to Teo Todd going through as a 3 seed. Cairo, difficult place to play, as my dear friend Tommy Palmer used to say. It is a pack a lunch, a dinner, and a midnight snack trip. You're going from Troup down to Cairo to work your way back up north. Then you got Wayne County and Spalding, which is a very, very sneaky in that mini bracket. That's a sneaky 1-4 with what you're seeing out of Jabo Shaw with Wayne County and Spalding, who beat Perry for the region title there. Perry's having the same thing where you have a quarterback who's injured. What do you do if you're Kevin Smith to try to figure out what you're going to do offensively? You mentioned Perry, and we'll get into them in just a little bit. You've got Stockbridge as a 1, but I think that mini bracket with Troup, Cairo, Wayne County, Spalding, upper left, I think that's one to look at. Low left, you've got Baldwin and Benedictine, but then you've got LaGrange, who might be coming to town if they can survive Westover. Then you end up with North Oconee. But, yeah, I think everybody's looking at North Oconee and Benedictine low left as you work your way in 5A. You mentioned Bainbridge. It could be a second-round matchup, but the thing is that first-round matchup that Perry has is with Burke County, and Burke County dealt with math. No one said there'd be math on this show. And so, Richard, we have math on this show where Burke County gets to be an angry 3 seed. They have to go to Perry for first round, and then whoever survives that one has to travel all the way to Bainbridge. Pack a dinner, pack a lunch, midnight snack, pack your tent and your sleeping bag to make sure that you're getting ready for that one. And then in the upper right, you're looking at Central Carroll, who's had a great year. Westside Macon's had a great year. Hapeville Charter's always going to be sitting there and poking you in the sternum, along with a team like Madison County.
John, I'm privileged to announce that I have your broadcast partner from GPB Sports on the Sports Beat. I'm excited to welcome the one, Hannah Goodwin. Thank you for joining the Sports Beat as we are just talking up high school football as it's playoff time here in Georgia.
I now know what it's like to be on our podcast because John gives me no information. Just here's a link. No time, no nothing. I'm so sorry I'm late. I have come into one of our edit suites for some privacy because the office is hopping today. So it's like a dark room in here.
So the office is hopping today? Is that how this is?
Yeah, yesterday it was pretty quiet, John, but today there's a million people in the office. So
of course.
Here I am. Yay. What are we talking about? Playoffs?
Yeah, playoffs, I think.
Okay.
Absolutely. So just going through all of the classifications, we'll start with 7A. Like who's your favorite to come out of 7A, 6A, 5A, all the way down to 1A, Division 2, and we'll just go from there.
Oh, man. That's a tall task. I'm definitely not going to make any predictions, but
I don't.
The highest profile matchup in 7A, Colquitt Parkview, obviously. Colquitt undefeated at 10-0, having an incredible season. And I also love the Archer-Valdosta game. I love that north-south matchup there in 7A.
Huge game.
John, what about you?
No, I'm right there with you. And we were talking about math in 7A, where Parkview ends up being a 4 seed. And, you look at those fun matchups that are there. And then 6A, we were discussing the idea of Gainesville and Thomas County Central being on the opposite sides. Then you could have a second-round matchup with Hughes and Rome. Hi, how are you doing?
My 6A matchup, obviously, is Houston County, North Atlanta.
Excellent.
That's our game of the week on GPB Sports
Of course.
Friday at Henderson Stadium. So that should be an awesome one.
Yep, and they're going to keep scoring, and they're going to continue to score, and they're going to be scoring by the time we figure out what our game is going to be after that. We talked about 5A. You've got Ware County and Warner Robins in the same bracket.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Creekside, who's in that same area in the upper left. You've got Jefferson. We were talking about Harris County because that's where Richard's based down there in Noonan, LaGrange, and Harris County and all of that. So that was what we were staring at in 5A. A lot of the same cast of characters there. Coffee, Jones County, North Side, low right, and then Cartersville that we got to see on Football Fridays in the upper right.
I like Dalton GAC, 2 top 10 teams going at it there. I think that's going to be a really good one to watch. And I actually like Kel Cass. I'm going to throw everyone for a loop. Kel has done a really great job this season. It's actually pretty surprising they haven't been this successful in a while. So I like that game as well.
And then we got into quad and we talked about teams like Spalding, and we had Spalding and Perry on as our web game. It is a massive mini bracket with Troop and Cairo, and Troop's having to do things without Teo Todd, Wayne County and Spalding and Perry. Math with Burke County and Perry, because then you've got Burke County and Perry, Trinity Christian and Bainbridge, low right. So, I mean, it's wide open there in Quad A, too.
Yeah, I agree with you on all those. Troop County Cairo is a really good one. Staring at my bracket, it's like really small in the corner.
But my question to you, does Benedictine win another state title in 4A? They seem to be the team to beat.
It's that low left, Benedictine and North Oconee, I think that one, a lot of folks are saying that's 1 versus 2, and you're only getting out of that. You could have that one to get to the semifinals. That's going to, I think the survivor of that one's going to go a long way trying to determine the title.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's we really can't pick winners because we air all of the state championship games. So if we were to pick
of course,
we ended up in the state championship game.
What is it I say, Hannah?
I think they can do it again. I think they could absolutely do it again. No surprise there.
What is it I say, Hannah, when it comes to predicting?
That
I love all my children equally.
I almost said friends. I said I love all my friends equally. It's your children. Yes, I love John's children.
I love all my children equally.
John Nelson, Hannah Goodwin, they have a podcast on GPB Sports, Football Fridays. I'm going to give you an opportunity to plug that podcast because you two, just going back and forth, you have great chemistry on the air, and I love watching your show, and I'm excited. You had WRBL's Jack Patterson on. I mean, he's my guy. He's my broadcasting colleague down in Columbus.
Jack's the best. Jack's so fun. He brings so much personality to the show. I love Jack. Jack,
Jack is a kid of the Muskogee County system. Went to Shaw, so he knows what high school football means there in the Western Frontier. But it's great to have guys like Jack on, who he and Tyler do great work there at WRBL, and it's fun to be able to tell Jack also places that he needs to go for lunch to get me lunch sometimes.
Oh, there you go. All right, we stopped at 4A. We're going to talk about 3A because there is a team that they are really on a mission to try to win the state title this year. I'm talking about Cedar Grove. I think that Cedar Grove is one of those teams. I like Calvary Day. Being from Columbus, I like the Carver Tigers. I think that Carver, when they made that move down to 3A, they went to the state championship in 2021, lost to Benedictine in 4A. Last year, they lose to Oconee County in the quarterfinals. I think that Carver is just continuing to roll. I mean, you look at their record. It was not very good in the beginning of the season, but they took on tough competition. They took on a 7A school in Brookwood. They took on Hatefield Charter. They lost close games. I think Carver has a very good path, and I think there's a potential quarterfinal matchup between Carver and Sandy Creek, and that game would be at Otis Spencer Stadium. Any chance that GPB Sports might come down to Columbus and maybe call a Carver game or any one of these teams if they make a deep run in the playoffs?
Don't really know what our schedule is going to hold for geography and mileage, but obviously when you look at something like that, I mean, it's going to be a great matchup. We'll obviously keep an eye on it if it comes to pass. But Hannah, I know that when we talk about one region in particular and the impact that Cedar Grove, Sandy Creek, Douglas, and Carver, all in the same region, really could all make deep runs. That's a fun region to keep an eye on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Cedar Grove's going to go really, really deep in the playoffs. Wouldn't be surprised if they're back in the state championship one bit.
And Richard, we talked about it earlier, the idea that when you only have those 3 region games, that region means you've got to come up with 7 non-region games. We had Carver, Atlanta, and Beaufort on our air earlier this year. And Cedar Grove, here's your piece of trivia for the show. Cedar Grove did not play a AAA team until region play. They played 7As. They played Carver Montgomery.
Coach Adams does that every year, though, John. Every single year he does that. He goes all over the country. And they even had like a mystery game last year that, remember, you called into the post-game show and they were on their way back because the game got canceled?
Mm-hmm.
He picks these crazy games and it always ends up working out for him in the end when it comes to region play because they test themselves against tough talent all over the country. So.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go to 2A because there's a team that I think can win it all because even though they finished the year with 2 losses, they really should have had 1 loss. They had a forfeit loss to Cedartown to open the season. I'm talking about the Callaway Cavaliers, who won the state title in 2020. They did lose to Appling County last season in the quarterfinals. But I think Coach Wiggins has got a team that could win the state title. And there's another possible quarterfinal matchup between Callaway and Spencer, but Spencer's got to get out of that region. I think they could possibly play Fitzgerald in the second round, even though that game's going to be at Otis Spencer Stadium. John, you could tell. Hannah, I'm excited about high school football. I've been studying these brackets, and I'm looking for possible matchups later on. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but second round, quarterfinal matchups that could be very intriguing matchups.
No doubt. And you mentioned what Pete Wiggins has been able to do at Callaway. It's been tremendous what he's done there. Fitzgerald is a 2 seed, losing the region title to Cook. Don't sleep on Cook because of what Byron Slack has been able to do. You look up, you got Rockmart in the upper right. You've got Thompson in the upper right. You've got, as I'm sitting here scanning quickly, okay, here's your matchup for
bottom right. Appling County is my angry 3 seed.
There you go.
I think that they make a pretty deep run this year.
That region came down to a drawing out of a hat to figure out what your math was going to be because the tiebreakers were all the same, and you had the 1, the 2, and the 3. They were all the same number. They had the same region record. So it literally, after tiebreaker, the last thing that they were doing was a hat draw. That is the first time I have ever seen hat draw as a tiebreaker to determine who goes where. But Hannah's spot on about Appling County.
Incredible. We'll touch up on Class 1, Division 2, and Division 1 shortly. Division 2 in Class 1, clearly I think Schley County is the team to beat. They're ranked number 1. I know Bowden is the defending champions. When Manchester upset Bowden to start the season, I knew that Manchester looked like a very good team. Bowden, they're taking on a Taylor County team. Let me tell you, Butler is just outside of Columbus. They are excited that they are in the playoffs. I know they're playing Bowden, and they may not win this game, but this really means a lot to the community of Butler. I mean, John, you know about these small towns, especially these towns are like Schley County, outside of major areas in Georgia, and they're just excited they're in the playoffs.
Well, and I will remind Hannah that one of her favorite coaches is a coordinator at Taylor County. The Mountain Dew man himself, Brad Harbor, is on the staff at Taylor County. and
I love Coach Harbor.
And Brad always makes a point to sit there and say that he likes Hannah more than me.
Well, a lot of people like me more than you, John. Back to football. If, in the words of Jack Patterson, the only team that's going to beat Schley County is Schley County. And he's not wrong.
I mean,
not at all.
You look at that low right, it would be a matchup with Early County in the quarters to get out of there. Right-hand side, you're looking at Bowden. So you could have a semifinal that would be a matchup of the final from last year with Bowden and Schley. So that
incredible.
what you would see. But that's just the rotation. That's how it goes. You've got a Clinch County team that's doing really well. They could make Johnson County to get out of the upper left bracket, and then you end up with Portal, who's done great work. And here's my story. Here's my story. Low left.
Oh God, story time with John.
Aquinas and Glasscock County. First time ever in the playoffs, ever, for Glasscock County. They hold the national record for the longest losing streak at 82 games, and they did that back in the 90s. Their head coach, Chris Kelly, is an alum of the school. He's been there for 25 years. This year is the first time they've ever made the playoffs, and they're going to play the team that started them on the 82-game losing streak, Aquinas, at Greenbrier this weekend. And now you know the rest of the story. I'm Paul Harvey.
There you go. I love that Paul Harvey reference. All right, finally, we have Class A Division I, and really there's a team that I love. Prince Avenue Christian. I've been a fan of theirs because I'm a fan of Brock Vandegrift. I remember when he was recruited by Georgia, and I remember I was at the Georgia game against Missouri, and I saw him on the field, and I was just excited to see him because I'm a huge fan of Prince Avenue Christian. I think that they're going to win another state championship while I do the lights real quick.
See, Richard, the lights in Richard's studio space, if Richard doesn't move, the lights go out.
Oh, I need to get that looked at.
So,
Well, you know what I need to do is just turn off the lights in my office and get a light when I do these shows. Just a standard light. So all that stuff is coming as I grow my podcast that I've had for almost 4 years now. So it's neither here or there.
It's always growing. It's always growing.
Absolutely. But, PAC, they're in the upper left. But lurking with PAC, Bleckley, a second-round matchup of Irwin County and Bleckley County possibly. So you'd have Bleckley working your way through their upper left. Then
Nice.
You go down low. Great season for Bryan County.
John likes to go in order, but bottom right, Dublin, Screven County. I love that game. Dublin's 2 seed. Go Fighting Irish.
There you go.
I like that game.
Well, and then
Crawford County, Brooks County.
Yeah.
Brooks is always really good.
Well, and then you could have that second-round matchup of Dublin at Brooks with Roger Holmes and Maurice Freeman.
Yes. 2 of our favorite coaches. That would be a really good game.
And then you look at Elbert Rabin and the Mountain Region with Commerce. Those 3 teams in that region could make a deep run as well. Pick any one of them. Just put a blanket over all of them.
What about Heard County, Crawford County, or Lamar County? Any of those teams can make a deep run. I mean, those are teams we kind of give notice because they're on the outskirts of the Chattahoochee Valley, but do you think they could make some noise in the playoffs?
Heard County's got that first-round home game with Pelham. Then they would face Bryan County. That might be an interesting bracket to pay attention to. Crawford County is a 4 seed. They had a bit of a tough year, below 500. Having to go to Quitman to play Brooks, it's going to be a tough environment there. But then you've got Duke Ellington and what they're doing at Lamar. Lamar is the one. They've got Bacon County, but then they would get Lee Shaw and Metter. You want another 2-3 matchup for you? Swainsboro going to Metter in the opening round. So Lee Shaw and Scott Roberts, that's going to be a fun one, too, for a 3-2 that would go up against Lamar County in Barnesville, possibly in round 2.
Well, I am excited. John, Hannah, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, joining me here on the Sports Beat. Before I get you out of here, tell everybody where they could find you on social media and how they can watch or listen to your show.
Go for it.
We are on social media at GBB Sports. I'm personally on social media at Hannah C. Goodin. And John and I have our podcast. Comes out every Wednesday. And you can watch our Game of the Week on GBB Sports, we're at whatever channel that is on your TV. We're also streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, gbb.org/sports, GBB Sports app. You can't miss it.
All 90 different places where you can watch us. We're out there every Friday night. Oh, and by the way, this week, Hannah has to put up with me indoors.
Yeah, we're back in studio for bracketology for halftime show and postgame show.
Oh, it's going to be exciting.
That's going to be a lot of fun. Nikki Noto Palmer's on the sidelines. So we'll have the whole crew for playoffs and championships.
Whole crew.
Well, I cannot wait. John Nelson and Hannah Goodin from GPB Sports. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching us on Facebook Live. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And I'm also on every podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for tuning in once again to the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, and we'll see you later. Bye.